let's dive in to week 9, starting with the quarterback position. Jake, the first thing that I noticed here, Kyler Murray is 7,800 in the spot against
Yeah.
Miami. He's probably worth it. But he's more expensive than Russell Wilson. He's more expensive than Josh Allen. He's way more expensive than Lamar Jackson. Whoa, Lamar Jackson is 6,900. Initial thoughts on quarterback, Jake?
Initial thoughts are I don't like Kyler Murray at that price. We've mentioned it time and again. I love the fact that he's running, but I don't love the fact that he's essentially turned into Lamar Jackson in the passing game, despite the fact he is. He's 2019 Lamar Jackson. He's hitting that absurd touchdown rate. And I'm not saying it can't continue because we just saw Lamar Jackson do it for a season. But at the same time, it just feels like if anything were to go wrong where he only throws for one touchdown, the yards are just not going to be there in the passing game. So I understand it. It's just with that price point, now that it's so high, I mean, if you give me Russell Wilson, I don't care who Russell Wilson's playing, let alone the fact the Bills defense stinks this year, and you're going to give me Russell Wilson at $200 cheaper? Get the hell out of it. That's an immediate smash for me. I think Josh Allen on the other side of that game is very intriguing because people are going to talk about the two games heading into last week. People were concerned about it. I go back to he threw 300 yards. He had a Gabriel Davis touchdown called back. Last week was a weather concern. Josh Allen still calls his own number at the goal line. I think Josh Allen's a nice price, and I think Lamar Jackson's a nice price again because Lamar Jackson's getting back to what made him good last year, and that's almost basically run first, pass second. And once you do that and you bring that threat of the past 2 weeks, I think you'll see teams start to soften up in the secondary a little bit, get Andrews more consistently back involved, get some touchdowns to Marquise Brown. And he hit Miles Boykin this past week. I think that was the first time this year. But I don't love Lamar Jackson in the situation against the Colts defense. But if you're going to give it to me in the 6,900 and basically the high 6,000 range, I think this might be the first time I'll own some Lamar Jackson this year.
Crazy to see that price drop, especially after like a tough matchup. Obviously, I know that Lamar hasn't been that good, but coming off of this Pittsburgh spot, like that just seems way too cheap for me. I agree. Russell Wilson at 7,600 against Buffalo, a team that's 26 in the league at defending the deep ball. So love the Lamar spot. Love both sides of that actually. So I'm with you on the price tag for Josh Allen. On the cheaper side, the one thing that kind of stands out to me overall is going to be Daniel Jones, 5,400 against Washington.
Nope.
He's going to run.
Nope.
He's not scared to throw
Nope.
deep. You can't go there,
Nope.
huh? You hate Danny Dimes. You've always hated Danny Dimes. Who's your cheap guy
because
then?
he's terrible. Because he's terrible. He's like the one thing. What I tell you about? I'm going to go to it right now. What was the score against Washington last time? 14.88. I told you last time against Washington to not trust him, and that's the front. Look, that front gets after quarterbacks too easy. What's his best game of the season? The Philly game, just the last game that they played, 22.7. Whoop-de-freaking do. He's got every single other game under 20 points. Look, 2 single-digit performances, a 10.06. He barely got a double-digit. Stop with the Daniel Jones. I'm praying you'll stop because I want to save you money. That's what I want to do, Joe.
We've been
doing
this for so long that I know exactly who to mention to just trigger Jake instantly. I'm not even like that much. You got like how many times have I talked about how good Washington's like pressure rate and defensive line is? Like, there's no way I'm playing Daniel Jones, even though he's 5,400. I just thought it was an interesting way to trigger you. So I guess who's a cheaper guy before we move on from quarterback that you like?
He's not that cheap. I actually don't love anybody in the 5,000 range. Maybe I was thinking about Derek Carr, but again, that my hesitation with Derek Carr in general.
Sure.
So outside of that, I think Roethlisberger against Dallas is intriguing, only because Roethlisberger can always go 303. Hasn't done it so much this year, mostly because his air yards per target are so down. But I think a lot of people will be off this game because they'll think like, oh, maybe Dallas has something going after Carson Wentz looked awful for most of that game. But, if Deontay Johnson is healthy-ish and those three weapons again, I mean, it could always be a Roethlisberger day.
I'm with you. So let's move on to the running back position. And there is one, like we saw the aggressive price move on Lamar Jackson. How about Ezekiel Elliott at 6,600 against Pittsburgh in this spot? Like, say what you want about Pittsburgh. Like, they have not been elite at defending like the short area of the field, probably because they're so good at rushing the passer. It doesn't even matter. But man, I did not think we'd see a price tag like that on Zeke. Any interest in going there, or are you just avoiding this offense as a whole right now?
I'm avoiding it as a whole. Ezekiel Elliott was kind of shaky compared to Ezekiel Elliott performance. Like, his real value was because he was getting so involved in the passing game with Dak Prescott. Had some touchdown run there at the beginning of the season to save his season as a whole. but he really hadn't been the Zeke that we knew. And now this defense has just gone to crap. I mean, there's not a single person on this offense that, or I should have said offense, not defense, offense that you can even trust. I mean, Amari Cooper last week, I was like, all right, well, now we're down to one wide receiver. Maybe you can roll out Amari Cooper. I don't even know if you could do that. Michael Gallup showed up a little bit, but I don't want to. Who do you want to play on this offense right now, even if Andy Dalton's back? I mean, maybe that's the thing. It's like maybe you're contrarian and playing Zeke, and at that price, go for it because J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards just did well against this defense. So maybe there's a Zeke game here, but I don't know. I'm surprised he was the first one you brought up, and then you just didn't do your victory lap of that Christian McCaffrey's back. Your boy's back. 500,
my man. Just jam him in against KC. Obviously, we'll see if he's at full strength in this one. But I mean, I think that one thing that's been a positive of Mike Davis, like not being good the last couple of weeks, is now Carolina probably realizes what they have in Christian McCaffrey. There's like a few guys, like I get it, whatever. Don't troll me on Twitter. Running backs don't matter. I understand, whatever. Anyways, I think there's a few guys that are difference makers, and he's one of them. I would put Dalvin Cook in that category as well. So Christian McCaffrey at 8,500 seems like a nice discount against KC. What are your thoughts?
It is. It's not the best matchup. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is good all around this year. They're also very good in the passing game. It's really what you've seen this entire season. So, look, but it's Christian McCaffrey. My only concern would be, do they ease him back in? I mean, there's the talk from Rule whether or not Mike Davis is going to completely go away. And he said he's earned some type of role when McCaffrey comes back. I believe him, at least for the first game. Like, why bring Christian McCaffrey first game back into 95% workload, 90% workload like you used to see? So that's why I would hesitate, is just because against Kansas City, he only sees 70% of the touches. Then he's really not worth 85 when you could just drop down to Dalvin Cook against the Lions defense at 82.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like Dalvin Cook more, at least on the surface. We'll see if I get to a CMC play by the end of the week. I guess CMC type of volume in terms of the amount of touches. Josh Jacobs sees the ball 31 times on the ground last week, adds 128 yards, only one target in the passing game. So it looks like his price tag, pretty interesting, 6,300 in this spot against the Chargers. It's interesting just on volume alone and the price tag. Any interest in Josh Jacobs this week?
A little bit, because he's discount Derrick Henry. Let's be honest.
That's a good way to put it.
That's really what it is, because you talked about that. It's the passing game. That first week, we were like, ooh, 2020 might be a little bit different. We might get to see more Josh Jacobs in the passing game. And then they just stopped. If he gets one catch, he can do like a Derrick Henry and take it for 40 yards, but that's what you're going to need. Chargers are a decent matchup. I think that the problem here is, I was looking at, and when I already built a lineup, that I told you I'm going to start doing that on Monday, and actually last week it barely cashed, but it did. It was positive. So that's sweet plus flex, EV on a Monday lineup is all I need.
Sweet flex. Talking about your cash, I didn't have any cashes last week though, so I'm a little jealous.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I told you play too much tournaments. That's why I got to get you back involved in some cash games.
That's the only way to have fun. I like fun, Jake. Let me ask you one more thing though about we agree.
Cash games. The cash games build your bankroll to play these tournaments. So that's why, my biggest thing, the reason, in all truth right here, the reason why I say I came out positive is what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? I told you I won $1.50. Mm-hmm. That's because I won in cash and lost everything in tournament. That's why I play cash, is because I cash more often than I don't in cash games. That makes up so I can play more tournaments.
That's why you just play the small field tournaments, man. That's the way to go.
I would love to. You're so much better.
The cash line is the same, dude. Go to these double ups and you're playing all these optimal lineups, and then you go to a small field GPP. The cash line's the same, man. Give yourself some show.
I would have won the Thunderdome. So there you go.
All right. I don't really have anything else at running back. I guess
you just see me doing like this to start the show.
Yeah. Jeez. Dude, I am on brand right now on the beginning of the year smash. There's parts of the middle of the year where I really struggle, and then the end of the year usually a smash. So I'm right on schedule, man.
You're in the mid part.
Yeah. Couple guys that are underpriced: David Montgomery, Myles Gaskin, still under 6K for the volume. Not sure if they're the best plays, but we need to move on to wide receiver. We're already a little bit behind now. So if we move over,
I'll stay a few extra minutes.
Oh, we're good. We'll get through it. I'm a professional host these days. So looking at just wide receiver as a whole, obviously on the expensive side, we've got DeAndre Hopkins, 8,200. DK Metcalf's now 7,800. Stephon Diggs, Julio right behind him. But in terms of prices, the one that stands out to me is just being way too cheap DJ Moore is 5,600 against Kansas City. Another Carolina guy that I like, that I think is just drastically underpriced, 0.6 weighted opportunity. That's an elite tier that you want to be a part of. And if you want to get it at a discount, definitely prefer DJ Moore versus a guy like Amari Cooper. But what else, I guess, stood out to you at wide receiver so far, Jake?
I hate DJ Moore. Mostly because like he's the new Amari Cooper. It's either 7 points or 17, 27
That's
points.
why you stop
He's
playing
just
cash games, Jake. This is what makes him
no.
tournament
It has
play.
nothing to do. So DJ, I actually do legitimately for this week. I'm a little bit concerned about DJ Moore. The Kansas City, again, this Kansas City secondary is really good. I don't think people are realizing how well they're playing this year. But I'll tell you this: I'm hesitating on DJ. He's my new Will Fuller. I'm hesitating on DJ Moore. I said this going forward. I'm just going to rank him as wide receiver 15 every single week, because if I try to rank him as wide receiver 10, he finishes as wide receiver 30. If I try to rank him wide receiver 22, he finishes as wide receiver 3. So there you go. I'm kind of off of him, so play him. That's your option right there. The Tyler Lockett play I like a lot this week, mostly because what have I told you this entire season about the Bills? Attack them over the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. So this is more of a situation where we're bouncing back to Tyler Lockett. I'm not saying it can't be DK Metcalf again this week, but it's gone from you like both of them till you know how it's been going the past few weeks. The past few games, it's one or the other.
It's Godwin's and Evans from last year. Literally. It's never both.
It's not even close. So I like Lockett more for that play. To go to your team, I know I bust you with this with the Vikings, but I like Justin Jefferson in a rebound spot against the Lions. I think a lot of people are off of him and going to be off of Adam Thielen. I actually like to go back to the quarterbacks real quick. I initially looked at a Cousins, Thielen, Jefferson stack, but I don't like that Cousins is still 6,200 just because Cousins can always give you negative points. So if I'm going to take a piece of that, I'll actually just go cheaper with Justin Jefferson. And then outside of that, I know this is the biggest risk one there is because the guy gets banged up in game, but I'm going to go back. When you're giving me Deontay Johnson at 5,000 against the Cowboys, the games before this that he just had that huge letdown because he got banged up, he was coming off 15 targets or 11 targets in those games. Like he was the number one. So at 5,000, I'm going to be back in on Deontay Johnson, even if it screws me over again.
Wow, so cheap. I didn't think we'd see him down there. Guy just had like a 15 target game 2 weeks ago. Didn't he? 13 targets? That's pretty crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's a good one for sure. I'm on Adam Thielen as well. A 6,700 feels too cheap against this Detroit team that can be beat deep, 31st in the league at defending the deep ball. So I like Jefferson and Thielen. What's Jefferson? Oh, 6,100. So the price is like far enough apart to where I think that Jefferson in a rebound spot definitely makes a lot of sense. I like both those guys in this spot. Like this is a spot where like last week getting on that Detroit game where it was going to be in the dome, there could be points scored, all that stuff. I guess we'll see the status of Kenny Golladay. I think that would impact, I guess, how much I like that game overall. But yeah,
he's out multiple weeks. This is going to be worth monitoring for two reasons. One is you might feel like it's Marvin Jones. He might not make it past the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. So even if he's on this team, you have Quintez Cephas, who people were talking about earlier this year, starting to get snaps, or Danny Amendola. Obviously, trying to trust who Matthew Stafford goes to in this game is going to be a little bit telling. I would go for the bigger plays in Cephas than Amendola. Amendola, I know you hate it, but Amendola for me feels more like a cash game play. For Quintez Cephas at his price, I'd rather just go for that upside.
I like it. It makes me, I guess, like the game a little bit less, but man, I didn't even realize this. Justin Jefferson leading the slate in yards per route run over the last 4 games, 3.2 yards per route run. That's a crazy number. He's right there actually with like Robbie Anderson at 6,300. So I like that spot quite a bit. Is there anyone at the very top that you like? Hopkins 8,200 seems super expensive. We mentioned that we like Lockett a little bit more than DK, but anything else at the top that kind of catches your eye before we move on?
And Stephon Diggs, I feel like he's going to be, that's going to be the pay up chalk option. I mean, you want to get everybody facing the Seahawks, and like 74 isn't even that prohibitive of a price to get Josh Allen in a bounce back. The biggest problem is because the running back, basically the entire landscape is so poor right now, it's very hard to get a Hopkins, Murray, Allen, and Stephon Diggs, Wilson. It's tough to get those and then even get a third option and be able to do anything at running back. That's the thing, is unless an injury happens this week and frees up some money at the running back spot. Like even Antonio Gibson, who I like a lot against the Giants, he's 5,800. You're not getting that huge savings where we had the Giovanni Bernards and the Jamal Williams and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tough this week to find those values, unfortunately.
Yeah, we find this with like even like Russell Wilson stacks. Like, yeah, if these guys go nuclear, it's great, but all of them together is so expensive that they have to have a just crazy game to truly get you to the top of tournaments, and that's what we're trying to do. So let's talk about tight end a little bit, Jake. It's Travis Kelce 7,200, and then it's a large teardrop to Darren
huge.
Waller, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Noah Fant in like the 4K range. So this is probably the largest disparity we've seen so far this year. It looks like they lowered the price on some. This is DraftKings pricing from last year. This is great. Johnny Smith 3,900. We got Trey Burton 3,500. The I guess the red zone running back for Indy, which is nice to see.
Direct snap.
Yeah, dude, I'm not kidding. Like he's getting more work than like Jonathan Taylor down there. It's a joke. Darren Waller, 5,800, still leading the way in weighted opportunity. Obviously a tougher spot last week, but the Chargers in this one, 26 at defending the short area of the field. I thought the Chargers would be a little bit better against the tight end. Looks like they're not elite like we've seen kind of in the past. But thoughts at tight end so far?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the one that's going to be, I think, contrarian to start. Maybe more people come around on it. But when I saw Mark Andrews under 5,000, I know it's the worst matchup. The Colts have been the best against tight ends so far this year. And Lamar Jackson's been very hit or miss. And Mark Andrews has been essentially Deshaun Jackson now. Good game, bad game, good game, good game, bad game, bad game. Like it's all over the map. It's either great or terrible. He's doing the Seahawks wide receivers at tight end. But at 4,800, knowing the ceiling of Mark Andrews, I put him in my lineup, and I'll figure out other ways to kind of get around it. At least he might not be in all my lineups, but he's in my Monday lineup.
He's not going to be in your cash game lineups, I would imagine that. But that's a sharp tournament play, Jake. You should play more tournaments, man. So let's talk about your boy Albert O for a second. He's 2,800. He's leading the slate in targets per route run. I was not there for that one last week. I assumed that Noah Fant was a little more healthy than maybe he is. But any thoughts on Noah Fant 4,600 versus Albert O at 2,800 this week?
Yeah, it was one catch for Big O. So that's really what it comes down to. It's going to be touchdown or bust. And that's what you're looking at for this range of tight ends. He's still at 28. That's not a bad price. But if it's 2 or 3 targets, you're hoping for a touchdown right there, especially with Noah Fant getting close back to 100%. He still is the leading tight end. He's still the best pass catcher. You know, of course, Albert O is a freak, given his side and speed, and he has the connection with Drew Lock and all that type of stuff, but still he's second behind there. So if you're dropping down into that range, if you're looking for savings, I will say the one other sneakily at 2,700, I'm not saying it's a big hit, but if you're diving down to the 2,000s, here is Will Dissly ran more routes or was on the field more than Greg Olsen last week. So remember Will Dissly of last year. Not saying, like I said, not saying it's going to be huge, but there's a potential. Like that's the tournament play right there in Will Dissly.
I like it. So just looking at
somebody just said Will Dissly in the chat too. Wow,
nice.
There you go.
The chat's getting sharp, man. I'm telling you, the chat is very sharp. You should see the ownership projections in our Patreon contest is actually insane. It's better. It's better ownership than the Thunderdome last week. So Will Dissly, what I like about him is the Seattle team throwing in the red zone leads the slate. 72.73% of their plays in the red zone are passes. So I love that. It's not like a team like the Vikings. You just know they're going to run it in every time. That is at 34.69% for the Vikings. So I think that's something that I'm going to try and look at a little bit more than I have in the past. But yeah, man, I love the Dissly call, actually. That's sharp.
Yeah, I think that if Carson's out there, a little less excited about it, but obviously there's still some potential there if you're going to this range. And then, I like him when he's healthy, but Jordan Akins, if he's back, there's an opportunity against Jacksonville. And if he's not, Darren Fells is just like Darren Fells when it's only him is almost like you're going to get a touchdown. But that's what they did. They've actually now priced him all the way up at 4,200 with Hayden Hurst and Hunter Henry.
I like the Akins call. Jacksonville 32nd at defending the short area of the field. So that's pretty much it for me at tight end, Jake.